everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. So in today's video I'm going to be doing a tutorial for this really cute cherry shoulder bag. This is a great beginner friendly tutorial. It only uses the single crochet and slip stitch and just chaining, so it's nice and simple, and it also encourages you to do some colour changes as well. So let's get into the tutorial. So for yarn today I'm going to be using this cream yarn. This is double knit and I've doubled it up, so I'm using 2 strands at the same time. However, the equivalent of this would be like a Aran or chunky yarn, so if you've got that then you'll probably need about 100 to 120 grams. So that's how much I've technically got of like a doubled up double knit, the equivalent of a chunky. And then I've got about 25 to 50 grams of this doubled up yarn, which is also double knit, but the equivalent again would be like a chunky or Aran yarn, and this is going to be for the cherries. And then this is not doubled up, but I will be cutting strings of this and doubling it up, and this is going to be for the cherry stems. So this is just like a khaki green colour. So what I'm going to be doing is cutting long strings of this that are the same length, and then I'm going to be using 2 at the same time to sew the cherry stems. Again, if you've got chunky green yarn then you only need to use 1 strand of this. It's just that I prefer to double up for the thickness. And then for my hook I'm going to be using a 6.5mm hook. You're also going to need some scissors, a stitch marker, and lastly you're going to need a sewing needle that has an eye large enough to put 2 strands of yarn through, and that's everything you need. Okay, so we're going to be starting with the base of the bag, so that's the bottom kind of long strip, and we're basically going to be making 25 rows of single crochet. So you're going to want to start off with your yarn. Like I said, I've doubled mine up, but if you've got normal chunky yarn you won't need to do this. I'm just going to make a slip knot, like so, and place it on my hook, and I'm going to make a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, like that. And then we're going to be single crocheting into each back bump all the way across, starting with the one in the second chain from the hook. So normally we would insert our hook into that second chain. We're going to flip the chain over and we're going to insert the hook into that horizontal bump behind it. So inserting my hook into that second back bump, like that, and then making a single crochet as normal. So yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And then into the next back bump, insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Into the next back bump, insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So I'm just going to do that now into my last 2 stitches. Okay, so you should have 5 stitches in your row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then for row 2 we are just going to turn the work around. So I'm literally just flipping it around, not chaining 1, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. So I'm just inserting my hook into that first V. So it's this first V right here, it's kind of covering it where we've turned the work, but if you kind of pull back the yarn you can see that first V. You insert your hook into that V and make a single crochet, and then make your single crochet into each stitch all the way across. Okay, so then for row 3 you would just turn the work and repeat the exact same thing, 1 single crochet into each stitch across, and you want to repeat row 2 until you have 25 rows of single crochet in total. So we've just done 2 rows, so you want to do 23 more rows. So I'm going to do that off camera and then I'm going to meet you back for the next step. Okay, so this is what it should look like once you have done your 25 rows of single crochet. So I'm now going to be kind of tilting the work to the side and I'm going to be working across the long edge. So I'm going to basically be doing slip stitches all the way down the long edges, and then in each corner of the short edges, so all 4 corners I'll be doing 2 single crochets, and then across the short edges as well will also be single crochets. So the long edges are slip stitches, the short edges are single crochets, and then in each corner it's 2 single crochets. So I'm going to go into basically these larger holes across the edges. So as you can see, these holes going across the top, and I'll be making slip stitches. Now these slip stitches I'm going to do quite loose so that it is easier for me to crochet into them for the next round, and I'm actually going to be putting my stitch marker into that last single crochet of row 25, so I can just mark it. So I'm going to be starting my slip stitches, so I'm going into the next hole right here. I'm going to make a slip stitch, so I'm going to insert my hook, I'm going to yarn over, and again I'm making it quite loose, and pull through, and then I'm going to pull the first loop through the second to make my slip stitch. And can you see how it's quite loose? That's what we want. So now I'm going into the next hole, pushing my hook through, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and then I'm pulling the first loop through the second, like that. So now I'm going to repeat that all the way across until I get to the edge, and then as you can see, this large one in the corner is going to be where we make our single crochet. Okay, so I've reached the last hole right here, so I'm going to do my slip stitch in that last hole. Okay, and now I've reached the corner, so I can kind of tilt the work back up, and then I'm going into that first stitch, pushing my hook through that top V, and I'm going to make a single crochet. I'm weaving in at this end, so I'm just going to loop the end over it. I'm going to make my single crochet in that stitch, and then I'm making 2 because it's the corner, so I'm making my second, like that, and then I'm going to make 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches, and then into that 4th corner stitch I will make another 2 single crochets. Okay, so now I've reached the corner, so I'm just going to do my 2 single crochets into this corner stitch. Like that. And now I'm going to be working all the way down, making slip stitches in each of these side holes, and then when I reach the top corner of the other side I will make 2 single crochets, and then I will single crochet into the next 3 stitches, and then into the final stitch I will make my 2 single crochets. So I'm basically repeating what I did on this side and here, back across here and up this side. So I'll meet you back once I have reached the end, and you should have 60 stitches in your round. Okay, so I'm just about to do my last 2 single crochets to complete the round, and you should have 60 stitches, and then I'm just going to place the stitch marker into the last stitch that we made. So that is going to be the end of round 1. Okay, so for round 2 we are just going to be doing 1 single crochet into each stitch, so into each slip stitch and each single crochet we'll just make 1 single crochet in each. So I'm now going into my next stitch, inserting my hook, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2, and then going into my next stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2, and I'm completing single crochets all the way around, so there's no increases, there's no slip stitches, we're just doing 1 single crochet in each. So I'll meet you back once I get to the stitch marker. Okay, so I'm just about to do my last single crochet, so I'm just going to take the stitch marker out and complete the last single crochet. And then I'm going to be placing my stitch marker, rather than placing it through the V of that last single crochet, I'm going to place the stitch marker through the post. So you see the actual single crochet posts that we have, they're like little V's below. The V's are along the edge, so they're like these kind of little V legs. I'm going to be slotting the stitch marker through there because it's much easier to figure out where you are in your round when you place it here for your waistcoat stitch rather than along the edges. So for rounds 3 and 4, so that's 2 rounds, I'm just going to be doing the waistcoat stitch. So the waistcoat stitch is essentially the same as a single crochet, except we just change where we place the hook to complete the single crochet. So rather than inserting your hook into the V at the top, you're actually going to insert it where the post is, so the actual like V legs where I just inserted the stitch marker in. Okay, so I'm going to be inserting my hook into the next single crochet post that I see, so that's this one right here. It's kind of like diagonally to the right of the one that I've just done. So I'm going to actually push my hook through the middle of those V legs. So I'm just going to insert my hook and kind of push it through to the back. Okay. So you're actually pushing it through the post, and then you would just complete your normal single crochet through this post rather than through the V across the top. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through like that, and you'll notice that the yarn is actually pulling up that like V stitch, and then I'll make a single crochet, so yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. So notice how the V's are kind of sitting on top of each other, so that's how you want it to look. And then I'm going to complete that in every single crochet post. So I'm now going into my next V post, pushing my hook through so that it goes through those V legs like that, and then I'm going to make my single crochet through that V like that, and then I'm going into my next post, pushing my hook through, and then making my single crochet through that V. Once you have done the first round, the following become much easier. It's just for some reason the first waistcoat stitch round is always a little bit more stiff. So now I'm just going to go into every single post, making my single crochet waistcoat stitch all the way around, so I will meet you back at the end of the round, and then I'll show you where we put the stitch marker. Okay, so I'm now about to complete the last waistcoat stitch of the round. So you see why I placed the stitch marker in the actual post, so that it's easier for me to know exactly which post to complete it in. So I'll just take out the stitch marker and make my last waistcoat stitch in that post. Okay, and then I'm going to place my stitch marker back into the post that we just made the waistcoat stitch into. So I'm going through that V on the kind of, not on the top, but you know, on the post. Okay, so that is round 3 all complete, and I'm going to repeat the exact same thing for round 4. So just 1 waistcoat stitch into every single crochet post, and then I will just place my stitch marker back into the final post of the waistcoat stitch that I do. So I'm going to complete that off camera, and then I'm going to show you how to do round 5. So I'm now going to show you how to do the first cherry row. We're going to be doing 3 cherry rows in total, and the first is going to be different from 2 and 3. So this is the only one we're going to be doing for this row, and then when it gets to the second and third cherry row, those are going to be the exact same, so it's a little bit easier. Okay, so this is row 5. We're going to be starting off with 2 waistcoat stitches, so just 1 in each post. And on the second, I'm going to be changing colours to pink. So I'm going to grab my pink cherry colour, or if you've got a different cherry colour, and I'm just going to make a slip knot like that, and then I'm just going to set it aside for now. So I'm going to complete my first 2 waistcoat stitches, and on the second I'm going to be changing colour. So I'm going to do my first waistcoat stitch, and then I'm going to do my second, and I'm going to change colour on this second waistcoat stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over and pull through, and then I'm going to drop the yarn to the back of the work, and I'm going to pick up my cherry colour and I'm going to place it on the hook, and then I'm going to pull through those 2 loops with my pink yarn, like that. Okay, so that's how we change colour. Now I'm going to complete a cherry stitch. So this is going to be completed through the post, just like we do with the waistcoat stitch, but I'm going to be doing something slightly different. So I'm just zoomed you in a bit more so that you can see it a bit clearer. But for the next cherry stitch, I'm going to be working in the post, and I'm firstly going to yarn over, and then I'm going to insert my hook into that post, like that. I'm kind of just tucking those ends into the work as I go. So I've inserted my hook, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and I should have 3 loops on the hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2, like that, and then I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the post, yarn over and pull through, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Okay, I'm going to repeat that one more time. So yarn over, insert my hook into the post, yarn over and pull through, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, like that. So you should now have 4 loops on your hook, and you're going to want to complete the cherry stitch by dropping the pink yarn and picking up the white yarn. So just drop the pink yarn to the back of the work, pick the white yarn up, or the cream yarn, and then you're just going to yarn over and pull through those 4 loops with the cream yarn to complete it, and then you can kind of just pull on the ends to tighten the stitch like this. And then I'm going to complete 2 waistcoat stitches, so 1 in the next 2 posts, and on the second one I'm going to switch back to pink. So I'm going to carry the yarn over, so I'm just literally including it in the waistcoat stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook into the next post, making sure that when I yarn over, the yarn is going over the pink yarn so that I can drag it across. Okay, so that's my first waistcoat stitch, and then I'm going to complete my second, and on the second I'm going to change back to pink. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my pink yarn, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops with the pink yarn. Okay, so now we're going to complete our second cherry fruit piece. So I'm going to repeat exactly what I did over here. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the post, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over, pull through 2, and then repeat that 2 more times. So yarn over, insert the hook into the post, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through the first 2. Okay, I'm going to do that one more time. Yarn over, insert my hook into the post, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through the first 2. And then I'm going to complete the stitch by dropping the pink yarn and picking up the cream, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops with the cream, like that. Okay, so now we have our first 2 cherries. So now I'm going to complete the sequence all the way around. So I'm going to do 2 waistcoat stitches, and then I'm going to switch to pink on the second waistcoat stitch, and then I'll complete the cherry stitch, and I will finish the cherry stitch with the cream, and then complete another 2 waistcoat stitches, and then I will switch back to pink to complete the second cherry. I'm going to complete that all the way around, repeating that sequence, and you are going to be finishing on a pink cherry stitch. Okay, so I've just completed my cherry round and I finished on a cherry stitch, and you'll want to make sure that you switch back to your cream yarn on your last cherry stitch, and then you want to place your stitch marker through the top V of that cherry stitch. So for the next round, round 6, this is just going to be single crocheting. So we're just going to be making 1 single crochet into each stitch. So we're not going into the posts of each stitch, we're going into these top V's. So I'm going to cut my pink yarn because we don't need it for the next few rounds. So I'm just going to cut it, and I'm going to weave in the tail as I make my single crochets. Okay, so I'm literally just going to insert my hook into the next V and make my single crochet. And then again into the next V, make a single crochet. And then I'm going to go into the top V of the cherry stitch, so you'll see it's that top V right there, make a single crochet. And then into the top V of the next cream stitch, single crochet. And I'm literally just making single crochet stitches all around until I get to the stitch marker, and then when I reach the stitch marker I will make my single crochet into that top V of the cherry stitch. So I'm going to come back when that is all done, and then we're going to be moving on to the waistcoat stitch again. Okay, so I've just done all of my single crochets all the way around, and then I've placed my stitch marker into the top loop. And now we're going to be doing 3 rounds of the waistcoat stitch. So we're just going to be going into each single crochet post and making the waistcoat stitch. So I'm going to start by going into my next single crochet post right here, and I'm going to make single crochet, and then into the next post, single crochet, into the next post, single crochet. And I'm literally just doing that into each post all the way around, and then I'm going to be doing that for 3 rounds total. Okay, so I've just finished round 9 where I did the waistcoat stitch, and now I'm going to be doing a decrease round with the waistcoat stitch. So we're going to be bringing our stitches down from 60 to 50. We're going to be doing a skip, and then we're going to be doing 5 waistcoat stitches, skip, 5 waistcoat stitches, skip, etc. So I'm going to be skipping the first stitch, so this waistcoat post I'm going to be skipping, and I'm going into the next post with a single crochet, and this first single crochet will technically be the first of the 5, so that's 1, and now I'm going to make another 4, so that's 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then I'm going to skip the next post, and I'm going to make another 5 waistcoat stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and I'm going to repeat that all the way around. I'll meet you back at the end of the round. Okay, so I've just finished the decrease row, and you should now have 50 stitches in your round. So now I'm going to be completing another cherry row. This is now round 11. So for this cherry row, and this is going to repeat again for our second cherry row further up, we are going to be doing 1 waistcoat stitch and then a cherry stitch, and then 2 waistcoat stitches and then another cherry stitch, and that will be the repeating pattern. So for after our first waistcoat stitch we are going to be immediately switching to pink. So I've got my pink slip knot ready. So I'm going to start my first waistcoat stitch, so I'm going into that next post, inserting my hook, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and then I'm going to complete the single crochet by pulling my pink slip knot through the 2 loops, just like we did before. Then I'm going to do my cherry stitch, so I'm not going to kind of go through it with you. Hopefully now you understand how to do it. So I'm just going to simply do my cherry stitch into the next post. And then I'm going to finish my cherry stitch with the cream yarn. And then I'm going to do 2 waistcoat stitches. So just going to go into my next post with a waistcoat stitch. and then again into the next post, make a waistcoat stitch. And on the second one I'm going to be switching back to pink. So I'm dropping the cream yarn and I'm picking up the pink, and then I'm going to make another cherry stitch. Okay, so that is going to be the sequence all the way around. One waistcoat stitch, cherry stitch, 2 waistcoat stitches, and then another cherry stitch. So for my next stitch I'll do 1 waistcoat stitch and switch to pink, then do a cherry stitch and switch to cream, then 2 waistcoat stitches and then switch back to pink on the second, and then the cherry stitch and switch back to cream. So I'm going to complete that sequence all the way around, and then I'm going to meet you back at the stitch marker. Okay, so I've just finished round 11 and now I'm going to do round 12. So for round 12 I'm just basically going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So I'm not going into the posts, I'm going into these top V stitches, making 1 single crochet all the way around. And I'm just going to cut the pink yarn now because I don't need it until the next cherry row. And I also switched back to cream on my last cherry stitch, by the way. So I'm just going to complete that now, 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around, and then I'll meet you back for the next round. So for round 13 to round 16, so that's 4 rounds, I'm just going to be doing the waistcoat stitch into each post. So I'm going to be doing that now off camera, and then I'm going to meet you back for round 17. Okay, so I've just finished round 16, and now for the final rows I'm going to be repeating round 11 to round 16. So that's going to be the second cherry row that we made, and then you're going to single crochet all the way around, and then you're going to do 4 rows of the waistcoat stitch. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'm going to show you how we do the last row. But you're just going to want to repeat round 11 to round 16. So once you have completed your very last waistcoat stitch, I'm just going to basically slip stitch into the next post of the waistcoat stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook through that post, and then I'm just going to make a slip stitch, like that, and then I'm just going to kind of pull the yarn out and then cut a tail long enough to weave in or so. You can just pull that tight. Okay. So that is the main base of the bag all done. Okay, so I'm now going to show you how we do the border around the edge. So I'm simply just going to tuck in the end just on the inside of the bag because I'm going to weave that in later. I'm actually going to join the pink yarn on the side of the bag. So you kind of flip the work so that you find a stitch on the side of the bag, and you just want to insert your hook into any of these posts. But I'm just going to go into this one right here. So you're going to want to push your hook through that post, like that, and then you're going to want to take your pink yarn, whichever colour you use for the cherry, and make a slip knot, and then you just want to pull the slip knot through that post, like that. So just pull it through, like this. And then we're going to be making slip stitches into every post all the way around. So instead of making the single crochets through the post like we did for the waistcoat stitch, you're going to want to make slip stitches. So I'm going to insert my hook into the next cream post, push my hook through, can be a bit fiddly, like that, and then you're just going to want to make a slip stitch. So yarn over and pull through, and then pull the first loop through the second, like that. And then you just want to repeat that into each post. Okay, so I've just finished my last slip stitch, and then you'll have a space between where you pulled the slip knot through and kind of your final slip stitch. There's kind of this gap here. So what you're going to want to do is just pull out the yarn and then cut a piece long enough for sewing, and then just pull it out like that. So you want to take your sewing needle, and then you just want to place the tail on the sewing needle, and then we're basically just going to be closing the gap between this stitch and this stitch right here. So you want to take your needle and you want to kind of loop it around the back, and you want to grab that top loop of that first stitch, first pink stitch, and you just want to place your needle through and pull through, and then you want to take your needle kind of underneath and you want to push it through the middle of that last pink stitch and kind of push it through the white as well, so like that, and then that closes the gap. And then on the inside, just flip the work onto the inside and just kind of make a little knot on the inside. Now that the ends are all weaved in, I'm now going to show you how to do the straps. So you're going to want to count about 9 stitches from the edge. So where the pink stitch is, I'm just going to count 9 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is where I'm going to be starting the strap. If you're right-handed, you want to count from this edge 9 stitches and start like kind of over here, and then we'll be working over. Because I'm left-handed, I work here, and then I'm going to be working kind of right, left to right. So I'm going to insert my hook into the top cream stitch, so not the pink stitch, the top cream stitch, pushing through those 2 V's, and then I'm going to make a slip knot with my cream yarn, like that, and I'm going to pull the slip knot through that stitch, like that. Okay, and then you're going to want to make a chain of about 50. If you want your strap to be shorter or longer, then you can obviously adjust this, but I'm going to do about 50 chains. So once you have your 50 chains, you're just going to want to kind of make sure that the chain isn't twisted, and then you're going to want to count 9 stitches from the other edge, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you're going to want to make a slip stitch into that 9th stitch from the edge over here. So I'm just going to insert my hook into that cream stitch and then make a slip stitch like that. Okay, and then we're going to be starting the second row of the strap. So you're going to want to slip stitch into the next stitch where we just slip stitch. We're going to go into the next stitch and make a slip stitch like that, and then we're going to be turning the work, so kind of turning the work so that we are working on the back of the chain rather than the front, and we're going to be going into each back bump of the chain and making slip stitches. So I'm just finding that next back bump of the chain. You might have to kind of pull it out and just insert your hook and then yarn over and pull through the first loop, and then pull the first loop through the second to make that slip stitch. And then you just want to work into each back bump, so these sort of horizontal lines going all the way up the back of the chain, making slip stitches. Okay, so I'm just about to do my last slip stitch into that back loop. So I'm just grabbing that last back loop, making the slip stitch, and then you're just going to want to make a slip stitch into the following stitch on the bag. So you're going to want to insert your hook into that cream stitch, the next one on the bag, and make a slip stitch to finish the strap, like that. And then you're just going to want to chain 1 and then fasten off. So cut the yarn, and then you're just going to want to pull it out like this and then tighten it, just tighten that knot. And then you're just going to want to leave that on the inside because we can weave that end in later. You're just going to want to flip the bag back onto the right side, so like this. And we're going to do a little kind of border edge on the bag strap. So grab your pink yarn and make a slip knot, So we're going to be working in the kind of side top loops only of the edge of the bag. Again, if you're right-handed, you'll be starting in the kind of right side of the strap where you fastened off. Because I'm left-handed, I start over here. So you want to insert your hook into that area where we just fastened off, so that kind of hole right there. Insert your hook and then pull that pink slip knot through. Like that. But you're going to insert your hook into that kind of top loop of each V on the edge of the bag strap. So right here you see these V's kind of going up the side, just that very, very top loop, and you're going to want to make a slip stitch into that top loop. So just yarn over and pull through, and then pull the first loop through the second, like that, and then you can just kind of pull that pink tail to push it back through. And then going into the next top loop, insert your hook. And then make a slip stitch. And then going into the next top loop. And make another slip stitch. And then I'm just going to make slip stitches all the way up around the edge, so I'll meet you back at the bottom here. Okay, so I've just done my last slip stitch in that top loop, and now I'm just going to kind of join it together by making a slip stitch into that second slip stitch we made when we did the white part of the bag strap. So we chained up and then we joined with a slip stitch, and then we made a second slip stitch, and that's that one right there. So I'm going to insert my hook and make my slip stitch into that space, like that. Okay, and then it joins it together nicely, and then I'm just going to chain one and fasten off. And then just pull the yarn through and tighten it. So now you can just weave in all of the ends onto the inside of the bag, and then you're just going to want to repeat the exact same thing on the other side for the second bag strap, and then I'm going to meet you back and show you how to do the green cherry stems. Okay, so I've now completed both of the straps, and now I'm going to show you how to sew the cherry stems on. So you're just going to want to cut a really long string of your green yarn. Again, I've doubled this up, but you don't have to, and obviously if you're using chunky yarn you might not need to anyway. And then I've just tied a knot at one end. So I've just placed it on my sewing needle. Now obviously you want to do this for every single cherry, but I'm just going to show you for the top row because it's a little bit fiddly to go all the way down to the bottom. But you basically just want to insert your needle from the back, so the inside of the bag, to the front, and you're going to kind of push it through the top of each cherry. So you're just going to want to pull that through. Like that. So just pull that through, and then you kind of want to just go up about 2 rows and then into the center of both of these cherries. So kind of 2 rows up, so 1, 2, and then kind of in the center of these cherries, and then just push your needle through that and pull through. Okay, and then you're just going to want to go into, from the inside of the bag, push through the second cherry and then pull through. And then you just want to push your needle back through the top of that cherry stem. So you're kind of working in an upside down V type of motion. So then you're just going to kind of want to push your needle onto the inside of the bag through these loops to tuck the green yarn in, and you're dragging it along to the next cherry stem, like that, so it's nice and tucked in. And then you want to go into, from the inside of the bag to the outside onto the next cherry stem and pull through, and then back down to the next cherry, pull through, and then back up to the middle. Okay,
and you just want to go all the way around. Obviously I started at the top, but typically I would start at the bottom and work up. It's a lot easier, but just for the purpose of showing you, I just did at the top. So you're just going to want to start at the bottom and work all the way around, kind of like in a spiral, going all the way up to the top. So I'm going to complete that now, and then I will show you the final result.
And this is what the final result is looking like. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you love making your cherry bags. Please tag me on Instagram if you do make your cherry bag, and let me know in the comments what you would like to see me make next. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.